Welcome into a live Locked On Pistons squad show. Back with you, host of Locked On Pistons, Khahil, two-time NBA champ, Lindsey Hunter. My name is Jake Riepma. Lindsey, we saw Game 7 going differently.
It was tough to watch.
Yeah, I mean, everything was flat. The game was flat. The fans were. Everybody was flat.
This is Locked On's Pistons Squad Show, the twice-a-week show where Pistons talk gets real. No filters, no fluff. Just raw takes, sharp opinions, and straight-up passion for the game. The way only Locked On Podcast Network knows how. Let's drop some dimes and squad up. The Pistons Squad Show starts now.
And here we go. Welcome one, welcome all. Welcome to the chat. And listen, this industry, this business, sports, it's all unpredictable. You got the highest of the highs. You've got the lowest of the lows. I remember being so excited for our first squad show ever, our first squad show after the Pistons pulled off the comeback to beat the Magic. So with the highs come the lows, and this is one that I have dreaded. Welcome in. You got Khahil with you. You got Lindsey Hunter, and my name is Jake Riepma. Sound off in the comments. Today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. Head over to FanDuel.com to get started. This is the #1 sports podcast platform, the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you like and subscribe. And guys, man, I don't even know who wants the first word, man. Lindsey, I'll go. You and I were talking a little pre-show. You've had a chance to kind of sound off a little bit. This is our first show since the Game 7 letdown, but man, it was tough to watch, Lindsey.
Yeah, man, I was sitting there. I had floor seats, and I gave them up after like halftime. I told my son to go sit in the seats, and I stood up hoping for some any thing I could hold on to that would give us some hope that these guys could come back. But they were just flat, man. K was flat. Everybody was flat. Nobody was in sync. It was just one of those stinkers, man, that, when I played for Larry Brown, Larry gave us, he said, you got 2 games all season that you can lay an egg. You got 2 of them. And unfortunately, man, the Pistons laid an egg. That Game 7 was just, I'm not angry. I'm hurt, disappointed. I'm still proud at the team. But I wanted them to go out like fighting. And they never had a chance to really fight for it.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing about the loss is that I was talking with somebody at the game, someone that works there, and it was just like, I feel like the best word, I was struggling to find the word to best describe it because embarrassed isn't the answer.
No.
Just like disappointed isn't even the answer. It kind of felt, especially the fourth quarter, it felt emasculating. It felt very much so like, because for anyone who wasn't at the game or kind of turned the game off when it got to whatever it got to in the third quarter, Pistons fans started leaving, rightfully so, at the end of the third quarter. So the entirety of the fourth quarter was a Cavs home game. It was the entirety of the fourth quarter, 12 straight minutes was straight up just Pistons being booed, or not booed, but cheered when they missed. They were being booed at their own free throw line. When the Cavs made a play, it was the loudest thing in the arena. When they scored, it legitimately felt like they were playing in Cleveland. And not only for you to be getting blown out like that in a Game 7, when you're 1 game away from the Eastern Conference Finals, to get blown out by them, but then to also, while you're getting blown out, to see that your fans have left and that the stands are empty. And now in your home arena, you are watching and listening. You are having to listen to the opposing team scream. And I can't imagine a different way to describe it other than it felt emasculating. It felt like I was sitting there watching because, I had to stay for the press, all that stuff. So I had to stay through it all. I'm sitting there just like the Devin Booker moment after they lost to the finals and to Giannis, where it's both Booker and he pulls his jersey up. He's looking at them celebrating. He just turns. He's like, damn. And then just turns away. That was my reaction. The entire second half was just like, damn, man, this ain't nothing. There ain't nothing to even say. This is just gotta eat this. This is tough.
Yeah. And cool. Jake, I sat there and normally I would try to, if we were winning, I would try to leave, beat the traffic. But this specific game, I made it my business to stay. Like, I wanted to stay and watch and kind of support the guys, man. I stood next to the tunnel and was like, hey, man, hold your head up. These are the moments that make you great in the future. Like, you have to eat stuff like this. You have to take the tough losses. When you get your butt kicked sometimes and you got ways to go to get where you're trying to get, these are the things that build character in you. These are the things that teams remember. Like, you're going to always remember somebody cheering on your home court and you're getting blown out and all your fans leave. You're going to always remember that. And
No doubt.
that's a part that will drive these guys to be great.
And
Yeah.
to back that up, Jake, real quick, to give you even more context, there was a moment in the fourth quarter because things were just getting out of hand. You could see on the Pistons bench that they were just like, they were obviously, but completely defeated. And there were two players specifically that looked like they were just really trying to hold it together. First, the one I really want to mention is Duren. Duren looked like he was really trying to just hold it together. You could kind of feel that. You could just see on his face and his how he was acting that you could tell that he was like, he felt like he really let the team down. Like, he felt that, and you could see that he was really trying to hold it together. And Cade and JB called the timeout, and they gathered everybody together, down 30, whatever it was, 7 minutes left. They gathered everyone together and was like trying to get everyone to be like, look, this is tough, but we're losing this together. We're going to go down together and like let's end this strong. Let's get out of here and keep our pride, basically. And they tried to get everyone together, but it kind of showed what kind of moment that entire game was.
No, 100%. And that was where my mind went to. And I did see one comment. We're going to get to Trajan's post-season presser at the end. Koo took it all in, and that was my bad, not setting up the show. So we'll do instant reaction now, break it all down, and then towards the end of the show, we'll definitely get to the off-season presser as well. So I appreciate that little update. But yeah, that was I was trying to think of, not everything's a movie, and I get that, but in my head, I was thinking of like, what does every great sports documentary have? They have like that low moment, and every team's got to go through that painful reality check. And I just kept thinking like, okay, this has got to be Cade's a kid, like in the grand scheme of things, not to say he looked inexperienced or anything like that, but the future of this organization, squarely where it rides on the shoulders of Cade Cunningham. And this game 7 in your own building, like that's going to be the opening of the 30 for 30, the documentary on this great era of Pistons basketball, where they had to go through this to get to the what lies in front of them. So I tried to keep that top of mind, but Koo, to your point, Lindsey, to your point, it all happening on your home floor with Cavs fans in the building, and just the dramatic letdown it was in so many ways. It's just it's a tough pill to swallow, but I tried to keep that top of mind. And I heard some national heads talking about JB's post-game press conference, that he wasn't going to use the term or the word disappointed, and we can get into the semantics of that and whatnot, and hard not to be disappointed in what this team accomplished. But at the same time, in the heat of the moment, I from a fan's perspective, I think you can feel disappointment while still having that perspective of where this team can go.
Well, I'll say during the press conference, you could see if anyone watched the entire press conference, he said he was talking about not being disappointed, but you could then also see with some of the questions that were asked to him, he was on edge. He was very much like snippy, and you could tell he was very upset. So I'm sure when he says, I'm not ever going to be disappointed, it really felt like to me that he was just trying to stick up for his guys and kind of keep their heads high. It was just, I think you could tell by his answers, especially as it went on, he was very upset and very on edge would just be the best way. Because the game 7, you got blown out, and it obviously is going to be that way. But JB, it feels like all throughout the year and these past 2 years, being able to cover him and be in the pressers with him, it feels like his number one thing almost every time. Almost every time he talks about his team, whether it's good or bad, he tries to always cover for his players. He always tries to make sure his players don't get bagged on. They don't get, he always tries to cover for them. So I'm almost 100% sure that in the locker room, it was not oh, we're not disappointed. That was all okay. Like they were very much upset, and they very much were not happy with what happened. But I think JB, his coaching style, he always just makes sure in the media, he never really throws his guys under the bus and always tries to go all out, like the extra effort just to make sure he looks like he's protecting his guys. So I think that's more so what it was. And I think fans 100% have every right to feel upset, disappointed, hurt, angry. Like that was a bad way to go out.
Yeah, and it's okay to be disappointed. Like sports, a lot of times we as a player, you have a bad game, you're disappointed in yourself. Like that's part of it. All the emotions are part of sports, and that's why we play them. That's why we love them. That's why we feel like as an athlete, you get to experience something that non-athletes don't get to experience. So that's all part of it, man. And as a former coach, you never want to throw your guys under the bus. You never want to say anything that would make a guy feel like, oh man, my coach don't believe in me. You never want to do that. But as a team, it's okay to always say, hey, we're disappointed as a team how we performed. Like we didn't perform. That wasn't us. That's fine, and we all know that that wasn't them. We haven't seen the Pistons play a game like that in I don't know how many years. So we know they were, I don't know if it was fatigue. I don't know if it was whatever it was, but you could see it. Like Cade had nothing.
Yeah, Cade
had nothing.
Yeah.
He was just running in mud. Like I was like, dang, if Cade can get it going, we'll be all right. He can get us back in the game and we'll be fine. But he could never get himself going.
And there was a moment, Lindsey, in the third quarter too. Like coming out at halftime, I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, well, the hope is it's only 17. Be honest, it should be down 30. And it's like, okay, well, if you can get like an 8-0 run instantly out to halftime, if you can just get a run to try to get back in this one, you might get yourself into position. We've seen them do it before. Get them into position where at least it's like, okay, they have a chance late. And there was a possession in the third quarter where the Pistons turned the ball over, and Cade was the one at the top of the key. So he should have been like the first one back. He would have been the guy that like, okay, I got to get back and try to stop this. And I'm not saying that Cade didn't want to win. That's not at all what I'm suggesting. So no one like take that. But you can see, like, instead of him just like full on like, I got to get back and make this block that we've seen him make all the time, you kind of saw him like roll his head like this, not rolling his eyes, but he kind of like rolled his head and like slowly jogged. Like you could tell, it just felt like his tank was on E. It felt like he had given everything and he just didn't have anything left. And I know that's not fans can point this out. I understand they can point out and say that's not acceptable of your franchise player in a game 7 on your home floor. That's partly, that is for the most part true. Like, yeah, you can't have an egg in game 7, but I think once you step away from it and you have a few days and you see, and Trajan, we'll talk about this later, but Trajan really harped on this with Cade. But when you see the playoffs that he had and the load that he had to carry on both ends of the floor, what he was being asked to do, I mean, I think even we talked about it a few episodes ago. Eventually, he was probably going to hit E. Eventually, he was going to run out. And it felt like game 7 is when he ran out. And really in game 6, to be honest, he didn't have a good game in game 6. It was everybody else. Everybody else had a good game. You kind of saw him already starting to wear down in game 6. And it just felt like game 7, it was just, he had nothing.
Yeah, and we talked about it too. We talked about it earlier. What are teams going to do to try to stop him? They're going to try to wear him down. They know he's going to bring the ball to the court. They picked him up full court. Every guy that guarded him picked him up full court and tried to make him work as hard as possible. And that's what this end result ended up being. Is we had our star was on E. Like he had nothing for us, and that's okay because I feel like as a young superstar, he's going to learn from that and he'll be ready. He'll like, you know what? I got to be in even better condition for next year. So I stayed and watched the guys walk out because I was proud of our team and I was like, man, this is a young team. I said they reset the expectations because of the great season they had. I said people started, of course we want to see them go further. Yes, we wanted them to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's what they earned the right to be respected that way. But when you break it down and look at how this team is constructed and the things that they had to go through to get here, we're still a ways away. Not far, but we're still a ways away.
Yeah, it almost felt like that the gap, whether you talk about where, the elite of the elite, and obviously into the final four teams remaining in the Western Conference Finals and the Eastern Conference Finals, it almost felt like symbolizing what that gap looks like all came into fruition in one game, in game 7. And two, I saw some comments, we already knew that where this team was measuring up and this, that, and the other, but you can't put together life and game experience on a spreadsheet and say, okay, we need this now. And so I think the game experiences, and even I again, I don't mean to be repetitive, but going back to the first round series against Orlando, I mean, think of the emotional toll that took, coming back from 3 games to 1. And it's all this growth process of experience, of moments that you learn from, and given the core of this team being as young as they are, I think in the long run, and it's hard to see it now, but in the long run, it absolutely is going to pay dividends.
Yeah, and I look, we were going to talk about what Trajan mentioned later, but he talked about, one of the things he said was he believes that they were the youngest number 1 seed to ever win 60 games. Like he said, don't quote him. It might be second or third, but he said he believes they were the youngest ever, and that people need to keep that in mind when we talk about this season, and act like he was kind of fighting back against the idea that it wasn't a successful season or it wasn't something to be proud of. He's like, remember, like, these guys, like how young these guys were to do what they did is honestly remarkable. So.
Yeah, and people, how quickly we forget. 2 years ago, Khahil, you were in the dark place. We were the laughing stock, and I was doing television at the time, so I'm sitting there trying to figure out what we can talk about to keep the audience interested in the game.
Yes, we don't have that. This is a hell of a lot easier to be engaged on. But let's keep breaking this one down. I want to talk about some of the individual components of it all, whether it be game 7 performances or just what we learned from some guys. Obviously, the Cade discussion to continue with that, Jalen Duren as well, and then we'll get into the Trajan Landon post-game or postseason press conference. Don't go anywhere. Locked On Pistons Squad Show. Hey, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. All right, I've been telling you about FanDuel for years. Listen up and listen good. The great thing about FanDuel, well, by now, best app and super easy, everything you need to know at FanDuel.com. The NBA playoffs are not over just yet. We got the Eastern Conference Finals, the Western Conference Finals. Wish the Pistons were in them, but man, if you watched Oklahoma City and San Antonio last night, we're in for a compelling series. And if you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer for you to get started. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. And you know what? On FanDuel, like I was mentioning, you can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel even more informed. Whether you're looking for player props or just following your favorite stars, it's a whole new level of excitement. So head on over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. All right, Locked On Pistons Squad Show. Jake Riepma with you alongside Khahil and Lindsey Hunter. Appreciate all the comments in the chat as well. We'll get to the Q&A at the end of the program, but diving into probably the 2 biggest talking points. I'll start with Jalen Duren. Unfortunately, just a postseason to forget in general. And Khahil, you've probably had more time to kind of marinate on it all and get your thoughts together and everything like that. But man, it just in a contract year, there's so many layers to all this. And unfortunately, the way the mind is wired, it's all about what happened most recently. Recency bias, they call it. And the latest sample size, unfortunately, it wasn't great and kind of leaves a lot up in the air.
Yeah. So you mentioned this earlier, Jake, but I'll say it again. We're still seeing a lot of comments in the chat about, Trajan's press conference. We will get the Trajan's press conference. Promise you guys, we'll get to it. But speaking of Jalen Duren, I see you guys talking about the things he revealed about Cade. Trust me, we are going to get to all of that later on. Just give us just a moment. We're going to react to Game 7. I promise you guys, we will get there. I promise. But we'll sprinkle in a little bit here. He mentioned what you just said, Jake, about Duren, that, recency bias, but he very much so said that they feel like they're going to be bringing him back. They are looking forward to bringing him back, looking forward to paying him and him being part of the team long-term. And that kind of speaks to it. He's not going to let the playoffs and the sample size they saw in the playoffs overrule everything else they saw from him. And also the fact that he's 22 years old and they think he has a whole nother, multiple steps that he can still get to. Right. So right. I think that's probably the right way to think about it. And look, Duren did not play well in this playoff series at all. And it was, or in the season, really, playoff season, he didn't really play that well. And it's tough. That is tough to see. He gave a little bit of hope in Game 6. Game 6, I think, was his best game of the playoff series, of the playoff season. He was great, very aggressive, got to the basket, all of that stuff. But again, Game 7, I think the matchup that really lost him the game, that really blew the game open, and Kenny Atkinson talked about it after the game. He said that they basically said, you know what, wherever Asar is at, we're going away. We told our players that wherever he is at, we're just we're not going over there. We're passing it away. And what that led to was Mobley and Allen. It basically was like, okay, Mobley, Allen, you guys get to win your matchups. And they absolutely obliterated Duren and Tobias Harris and Isaiah Stewart and even Paul Reed in this game. Like, they were the best players in this game. And it's not just a one-game thing. Duren had his struggles throughout the playoff series, but I think I see a lot of fans mentioning this, and I don't think it's completely wrong. I just think that the side that Trajan's on overshadows this. It's fair to say and have at least concerns or at least questions of, okay, well, Duren was great in the regular season, but now we really saw him struggle in the playoffs a lot. Is it possible that he's just someone that won't translate to the playoffs? I think that's very too early of a sample size, way too early in his career to definitively try to say that. But I do think because of how he played, it at least makes it something to where next playoffs, you're like, okay, we're watching this. Okay, now we need to, okay, how is this? Is he going to look better this playoff run? Is he going to look better this playoff run? I think that's fair to have those conversations now moving forward. But I don't think it's enough to, say, okay, move on from the 22-year-old who was just an all-star. I think you kind of have to keep that in mind. You have to try to be, remove yourself from the moment and try to think about it holistically, which is what, some of the things that Trajan talked about today.
Yeah, I mean, of course, we're going to get overreactions. We're going to get people saying, hey, he shouldn't be paid. The Pistons should trade him or whatever. But I've even heard some I've been on a couple of shows, radio shows, and they were like, we don't want to hear he's 22. And I'm like, look, man, everybody's different. Every player's different. His 22 is not somebody else's 22 that may be a little more advanced than he is, as far as fundamentals is concerned. We know he has a ton of work to do to get better fundamentally, skill-wise. He has a lot of work to do. And if he can put together the type of year he had with just raw talent and just rolling to the rim using size and strength and agility, if he works on his footwork and gets him some sort of post game, he'll be okay. If he gets those two things alone, that'll make him 10 times the player he is now. So I feel like, everybody was really piling on the kid, and I felt bad for him.
I felt really bad after the game.
Yeah, man. I was defending him. We had our crossover podcast on there, and I was snapping on my co-host, like, dude, get off this kid, bro. Like,
did you see him after the game, Lindsey?
Yeah, man.
He looked like
dejected. He looked dejected, man.
I know fans, and I understand this. Fans look at these players, and we're fans. I mean, people are fans, and people want to see their team win, and they look at players. Right. I'm not saying they look at players as objects, but a lot of times, like, you look at, like, it's hard to humanize players and for fans and I understand that. I'm not saying they should. Like, I understand that they're fans. It's that's the whole point of watching sports and being a fan of a team. I get it. But when you're there, and I'm not at all trying to defend how he played. He played he played poorly. Like that. That's fair. But I did find myself, man, after the game when I saw him, I found myself saying, man, he really is just a kid, man. Like, he looks like he's about to, like, break down. And I felt bad. And I'm not saying that the criticism from fans is unwarranted. He did play poorly. Like, I get it. I'm just saying when you see him after the game, you really like, man, he is just 22 years old, man. And he looks like dude, he's like, he looks like he's really trying to hold it together right now. I felt bad.
Look, as a basketball player, I always tell people, I ask kids, have you ever, especially high school kids, have you ever cried after you lost a basketball game? Like, have you ever broke down and was like, man, it just broke you to the point you cried? Because that means you care. Like, that means that you wholeheartedly, like, man, I'm in this for real. I care about it. I gave my all, and we still came up short. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember crying after we lost, trying to go back-to-back against San Antonio, Game 7 in San Antonio. I remember coming home, and I'm just sitting in the room, like, tears going down my face, like, dude, I'm so tired. I'm exhausted physically, and we lost Game 7. It takes everything out of you, So I just feel bad that he has to go through this, and hopefully he uses his motivation. If I get a chance to talk to him, I'm going to tell him, hey, man, go back and look at what Kobe went through when he shot all those air balls against Utah. I said, when Kobe went through that, they were killing him. They were killing him. It was like, why would they have him out there? I said, Kobe went home right after that series and got in the gym right after that all summer and came back a totally different dude, So hopefully this motivates him, man.
Yeah, the competitive nature it takes to get to this level obviously inevitably comes along with that. You would hope the response factor to, hey, this happened. Now it's about how am I going to respond? But I do think roster construction and forward thinking and planning has to also be, factored into this as well without, and I'm not suggesting making it personal or anything like that, but just understanding the type of player he is, the type of player Asar is, the type of player Cade is, and now what comes with the rest of the roster construction. And I think it's a fine, delicate line and trying to figure out what the balance is between, taking even the Cavs series in a vacuum compared to the regular season and the season as a whole, and using that as your basis for forming the future of the Detroit Pistons is going to be an interesting proposition, because I'm a positive person. I'm optimistic, but I also you have to understand the business component of it, and I saw a couple people talking about maybe Duren is certainly not a super max player, get him on a team friendly deal. So if something, potentially down the road, you can move him, that sort of thing. Khahil, I'll kick it to you and Lindsey. What do you think, the Pistons front office is thinking as far as his future without overreacting, but taking the sample size that was put in front of them this postseason?
Yeah, so yesterday's episode on Locked On Pistons, if anyone who's listening in the comments knows, I really dove into what I had been told throughout the year, where the front office is at, what they think of their players, why they did certain things, all this stuff, and then combine that with what Trajan had said today. I think it's perfectly fine to talk about roster construction because it's a real thing. Like, to win a championship, especially at this time when they're going to start paying guys, you do have to start. You have to be honest and have to be objective about it. And I think based off of the things I said yesterday, and based off what Trajan was saying today, I think it's very clear that they very much believe in the core of Cade, Asar, Duren. They think those three guys they can build around moving forward. Again, we'll talk about Trajan's press conference later, but I think that was made very clear. I think what Duren's performance does more so, Jake, and you mentioned it, it's about his contract. I don't think you can't give him as much money as was being talked about before. Like, I think it was like 45.4 or something like that. Like, I think that was a supermax if he makes All NBA, which we still don't know, by the way, which I don't, what's going on? Why is it taking so long for us to know the All NBA team?
I don't know.
Like, why?
I blame Tim. He's too busy breaking the MVP instead of the All NBA team and taking heat for it, saying he's a nerd and needs to go out to lunch or out to brunch.
Right. So I think the main thing I come away from this playoff series is you got to get him on a better deal than that, because if you do overpay based off this playoff series, and let's say if you pay him that max, that absolute most, and then you do get to the next playoffs and just we're not hoping this is the case, but let's just say you do get to the playoffs and it's like, okay, he's struggling again in the playoffs, man. Maybe he is just someone that just, maybe takes a step back in the playoffs. Now you got someone that you're paying a lot of money. And then it's like, okay, can you make moves to improve around this? Can you make moves to, kind of supplement this? Like that's the situation you don't want to be in. And that was reported, I believe, by Hunter of The Athletic, the Pistons beat writer. He mentioned that they're looking to get him now on a much, lower deal than that. The problem is that I think everyone's going to be watching for is that even if the Pistons do say, nah, we're, my guess is they probably want to give him around like $37 million. That's why I think it's probably what they're looking at. Problem is that even if they try and negotiate that with him before the season, two things come up. One, and some of this may be some things I've heard and some things maybe I'm just speculating on. You guys can, wink, wink, elbow, elbow, nudge, nudge. But one, Duren was not believed in. His camp will take it. We were not believed in last summer. You didn't pay us last summer. Yep. You could have paid us last summer. You could have got ahead of this. You didn't. And you told us if we went out there and proved ourselves, you'd pay us. He went out there. He might be an All-NBA guy. Like if he makes All-NBA, they will look at, rightfully so. We did our thing. We did what you wanted us to do. We went out there. We were an All-Star. We were All-NBA. We want our money. Like we want to be paid for what we did. And what that will lead to is that they'll be like, okay, we'll go to restricted free agency. We'll go to restricted free agency. And if you do go to restricted free agency, the most another team can offer is 43.5. And I can tell you guys with 100%, and Lindsey probably knows this as well. If he gets on the open market, it doesn't matter how he played in the postseason. There are multiple teams in the NBA that will say 22-year-old that just made an All-NBA team, and we can pay him, and we think he has a good future. Sign us up, 43.5. And then the Pistons will be sitting there saying, do we match or do we let him go? And there's no way that they would just let him go. You can't just let your 22-year-old All-Star walk. So it's going to be a very interesting summer for how they handle that. I know I rambled for a minute, but it's going to be very interesting how they handle it.
Yeah, and it's going to tell us a lot too. It's going to tell us from the little reports that we will be getting about the negotiations. It's going to tell us a lot about what the Pistons' approach will be and how Duren camps is feeling about, if everybody's going to be on the up and up. Because negotiations change a lot, man. People, you go from being friends to foes overnight.
Yeah.
When you start talking about money, things change and business becomes business.
Mm-hmm. Lindsey, I know we always do the Q&A at the end, but one just popped in my mind. Did you ever have any heated negotiations, contract-wise?
Yes.
Were you involved in negotiations, Lindsey? So, like, does the agent handle it all, and you just kind of like let it happen? Or are you involved in like what goes on?
Yeah, the agent basically handles it all. Sometimes the team will want to call you in a meeting to talk to you. It just depends on the relationship, Some agents don't want you around. Some agents are like, hey, we're going to go here and work out. I don't want you around. Because they know that as a player, you fall in love with an organization, you'll tend to bend a little more than you would for somebody you don't know.
Yeah.
They
tap into those the human element side of it,
yes,
right? And use it as a strategy. But all right, I think we've previewed it and teased it long enough. Let's get into Trajan Langdon's postseason presser that Khahil was covering and kind of break that down and get our instant reaction to that. That's on the other side of this break on the Locked On Pistons Squad Show. Today's episode of the Locked On Pistons Squad Show is brought to you by our good friends over at Reddit. If you ever watched a game and thought, man, the fans are going crazy about this right now, on Reddit, you're plugged into millions of fans who are just as hopeful, dramatic, analytical, and loyal as you are. Reddit is the app for authentic conversations about anything and everything. Go to subreddit. Oh yeah, I love looking at the Pistons one. You're plugged into millions of fans who care just as much as you do. And the subreddits from there, like, maybe a subreddit on the Pistons fans, continues to keep you in the loop with reactions, memes, and breakdowns. And who doesn't love a little bit of company when you're going through it or when you're experiencing the high of highs? highlights. And it's not just highlights. You get real conversations, different perspectives, and instant reactions as games unfold. It's like the ultimate second screen, whether you're checking reactions, catching up on news, or just seeing how everyone is feeling in the moment. Reddit is where the real fans hang out. Download the Reddit app and dive into your favorite team for hot takes, fresh memes, and the group chat that never sleeps. Download the Reddit app today. All right, perfect timing with this one as Trajan Langdon addressed the media who was covering the event, and from covering the press conference to the Locked On Pistons squad show. It doesn't work out any better than that timing line. Right?
It doesn't. All right, so here I'll give some of my and chat if you guys have any questions, or Lindsey or Jake, if you guys were you guys able to tune in or no?
I tried to catch it, and I was mentioning pre-show as having the YouTube live struggle. So I'm going to blame YouTube Live. I kept clicking on the link, and it was hey, anybody that's had technical issues gets it. You know, I'm not gonna cast blame, but I was not able to access it.
So if anyone has any questions or anything you want to know, if you spoke on, you guys can ask those. But I'll start by just giving my biggest takeaways, because going through everything that he said would take too long. So if there's anything specifically you guys want to know, you guys can ask. But my biggest takeaways were this. One, he did confirm that Cade had a broken rib. So that will explain that. You know, I think someone got a photo of like
he had that flak jacket on.
Yeah, looked like Cam Newton when he was like in his prime. He did confirm it wasn't just a collapsed lung, that he also had a broken rib, which pretty crazy that he was able to play through.
Man.
That's one. Two, he mentioned that they never felt like Cade was at peak condition, and that the fact that he was able to play the way he did was honestly stunning to them, and that they thought he wasn't even at his best self. He could have been better. But that Trajan over and over really made sure to say, I don't think people understand that he had a collapsed lung, came back, and was trying to play off of, not playing for like multiple weeks where he couldn't move and just couldn't do anything. He mentioned that over and over. Don't think people understand how hard it was what he just did. So he said that he was very, very much so proud of Cade. The only thing he said he wanted to see Cade improve upon was his overall efficiency. That was the only thing he would say. He said outside of that he's just more so proud of that he was able to play the way he did despite everything that happened right before the playoffs. So that was probably the biggest takeaway, because I know we all speculate, did he also get a broken rib, or was it just he confirmed that it was also a broken rib. So that's one.
Wow.
Two, next biggest takeaway that I had, sounds like Jalen Duren will be back. For anyone that was wondering, will this allow, will they, move on from Duren now? It very much sounds like they want Jalen Duren back. He over and over said how great of a season he had. Multiple times said that they're looking forward to having him back next year, and for the long term, they're looking forward to getting a deal with him done in the offseason. Now, look, things can change. Crazy things have happened, but it very much sounds like that Trajan had made it clear over and over they want to bring Jalen Duren back. He recognized that he did not play well. He mentioned that if you ask Duren himself, he'll tell you that he didn't play well, but mentioned how the whole, how young he was, his season in general, they want him back, and they want him to be a part of, obviously their core moving forward. So very much sounds like Jalen Duren will be back. And they're looking forward to paying him. The next thing is with the SAR, which last night I spent a whole podcast talking about how Ausar Thompson was the key to a lot of, I would say, internal disagreements, or disagreements maybe is too strong. Just internal
discussion.
Yes, internal discussion of just two ideas were going at each other throughout the season, and it led to a lot of the confusion that maybe some fans had, and a lot of moves that they did or didn't make between front office and coaching staff. So talked about that yesterday, and Trajan came out today, and he mentioned that kind of just backed up a lot of things I had said yesterday, that they are incredibly high on Ausar. They think he's going to be incredible next year. They think he's going to have even more, basically more offensive burden next year. Talked about how Ausar improved last summer in offense, but that he revealed that he was restricted all off season. So I don't think a lot of us knew that. It felt like, because he played in the playoffs, they played in the regular season after his blood clots, but he said that even despite that, they had a lot of restrictions on him last summer. But this summer, they have no restrictions on him, and they plan on starting quickly with his offensive game, working on his offensive game, and that he'll be way better next year. And he went on to say, quote, "You're not going to have to worry about Ausar Thompson at all putting in any work," and that they're extremely excited about his future. moving into next year. So my biggest takeaways, Cade, broken rib, play through it. They will be bringing Jalen Duren back. And he confirms that how high they are on Asar Thompson. He confirmed that they did have restrictions on him last year, and he won't have any this year, and they have a plan in place for what they want him to do next year offensively, and they think he will take another step and be more important offensively next year. Those are my biggest takeaways. I guess the last thing I would say before we can open up the chat or ask anything about it. This is the most annoyed and frustrated I've ever seen Trajan, and it's only when they asked about one specific thing. They asked over and over. I've never seen Trajan get this frustrated with this question. It was simple. Them asking continuously, do you believe this young core can win a championship? And do you believe this young core needs someone else to come in and kind of lead them or be like a bigger player or a bigger star? And he said no one time. Then they asked again. He was like, I believe in the core. Then he was asked again. He was like, I think I already answered this, but yes, I believe in this core. Then they asked again, and he was like, I wish I must not have been clear enough. And then you could see he was getting visibly frustrated. That was the one area where he seems like he's very upset that people are even questioning or people are even wondering about. And that's the one. He very much was snippy, and I've never seen. Usually, he's very very calm, collected, like very friendly person. But that he was really, really getting frustrated with that. So I think that kind of shows where they're at with their young core and their thoughts on them moving forward.
Yeah, I can understand his frustrations if but media is going to be media. You know how that goes. But I believe in this young core. I think we have the young pieces that are going to be part of a competing championship team. I do also think we got to add something. If you look at the teams, if you look at that game last night, you watch OKC and you watch San Antonio, man, you saw some of you saw some of the best young perimeter players that we've seen on one court that are that young. Like I was blown away. I was like, man, this is what it's about. These dudes are competing. They're athletic. They can score. They can defend. What more can you ask? That's what the Pistons are up against. That's what we have to become. And I think they can get there because I think they got, we got Asar, we got Cade. We got two of the pieces already, so I'm not worried about that. I think Trajan will do the right thing and go get maybe we'll go get a veteran who used to be an all-star or something that can go next to Cade and be another primary ball handler, when Cade's off the ball. So, but if you watched that game last night, you saw multiple guys that could play off the ball, on the ball. It didn't matter who brought it up. You're not going to pressure one guy all night and get him worn out because the next guy will just bring it up and he'll initiate the offense. Or if anything break down in regards to who hands that ball was in, that guy could go make a play.
Yep.
And that's the next level that we have to get to.
Oh yeah, Pistons are lacking that in a lot of different ways, and that's why. And Khahil, you kind of alluded to this, and Lindsey, I kind of want to pick your brain on it. It feels like the blueprint and the plan is out there, and you can outline it in a press conference. But specifically speaking to the player development of guys like Asar offensively. And again, I get my optimistic brain thinking, man, he could be such a difference maker if he can develop that next part of his game. And for you, and it's, again, you can say this, that, and the other, and I'm not asking for like his specific training regimen or anything like that, but just how, from a mental standpoint, like for Asar, do you think he can get to that next level offensively, and what does that take?
Look, it just takes dedication to being in the gym. All he has to do, look, if I'm Asar, I'm probably going to take a day or two off to collect my thoughts and get myself feeling a little better. But I'm in the gym at least. I'm starting off the summer. I'm making 500 jumpers a day. That's just the start. I'll build myself up till I'm making 1,000 a day. Like, if he does that the entire summer, I guarantee you will see a transformation in his game. Mm-hmm. It's there's no walking around it. That's what it takes. It's going to take a lot of work, but it's very attainable if he if what they say about him is true, that he is a workhorse, then I see no problem with him becoming a kid that can go out and knock down a three in the corner and can make a mid-range jumper. Because that's all he has to do. He doesn't have to be phenomenal. All he got to do is be able to consistently shoot 37% from the three and knock down free throw line jumpers. If he does that, do you realize how good he could be?
Yeah.
He'll be an all-star next decade.
Yeah. I mean, so to back up what you guys are talking about needing more ball handling, Trajan did say when they asked him about specifically what do you think you need to improve on the team the most, he said more ball handling the better, whether it's initiating or bringing the ball up the court or actually executing the half court and getting paint touches, that's the main priority. Then he went on to say, well, adding more shooting could help as well. But he's really focused. It sounds like he's really focusing on having multiple guys that can get to the paint and make decisions and can constantly get the defense in rotation. So that he said that to back you guys up, what you guys mentioned. With Ausar, again, I don't want to rehash everything I said yesterday because we would be here for another hour. The best way I can answer or can chime in with that is this front office is extremely over the moon high. And I think some fans are probably going to be upset. My guess, some fans are going to be upset with some of the answers he gives about what they can do to be better next year, because everything I've heard and been told, they believe he's going to be the answer to a lot of their problems. They wanted him to be more of the part of the process this year. And for multiple reasons that I laid out, that ended up being put to the side. And I can't get into all that now. Tune in the last episode if you want to know all of that. But the front office believes he's going to be the answer to a lot of their problems. And they are extremely high, not just on they are high on his offense. They think he will be something offensively. Now, we will find out if they're wrong or right, because that is whether they're wrong or right on that is going to really decide the Pistons' future. Like that is the swing factor. If they're going to put all their eggs into that basket, if they're wrong, that's going to that's going to hurt their future. But if they're right, that changes everything. So, Lindsey, to back up what you said that he should take a few days off and then immediately get right back to work. I was told yesterday that he'll probably be back in the gym immediately working next week. That he's going to be instantly ready to start working. And that he is very frustrated. And obviously, I know a lot more of this about Ausar because obviously I'm a fan of Ausar's, and I've gotten close with people that give me some stuff about Ausar.
Right.
And I can tell you guys that he is very upset that he cannot shoot right now, and that he was not able to. You heard him after the game as well in the locker room. He mentioned how this will never happen again. I need to get individually better, and their plan with his shooting, the plan the team has for his shooting, will lead to him shooting more next year. They broke down. I'll try to answer this fast, and then we can move on. They broke down his jump shot completely before the season, completely destroyed it, so they could build it back up into a better form and something that he's more comfortable with. So they didn't really want him shooting at all this year. And he was because it wasn't going to be consistent. The jumper that you saw from December was a different form that you saw in February, was a different one you saw today or last game. So they were trying to build it up. They've gotten it to a point where he's comfortable and they're comfortable with it. And now they want him to spend the entire offseason, like Lindsey said, 1,000 jump shots, made a 2,000. Like they want him repping that all offseason to where he comes in next year, and they want him to be a shooter. So if they're wrong, it's going to be tough, but they really are putting, from what I understand, they are putting a ton of their eggs in the basket of they think Ausar is going to be incredible. And I guess we'll just have to see if they're wrong or right.
It's a compelling proposition, and it's going to be, unfortunately, nobody's going to have really the answer or the last word on that for quite some time. So I think the roster construction will continue to be a ever-changing topic of conversation as reports come out here. Are they big game hunting? Are they doing this, that, or the other? What names are being floated around, that sort of thing. I'm sure you guys saw Lauri Markkanen from the Jazz initially, and until we've got more than just kind of the breadcrumbs, I think we're all kind of in the same boat. But let's wrap it up. We got about 10 more minutes with the a little Q&A here to close it out on this live edition of the Locked On Pistons Squad Show. All right, right back with you. Appreciate the comments in the chat for any questions you might have for Lindsey, for Khahil, collectively, all three of us. But there was one that I highlighted, and it was about the pressing of Trajan Landon in the press conference from Red Baron Arcade as everybody else thinks of some questions in the chat. But kind of an interesting proposition of sacrificing regular season success for the sake of developing a better playoff team. And Lindsey, I kind of want to ask your thoughts on, do you think there's some truth to that, or not even truth, but just kind of a strategic approach, knowing what the Pistons went through this year, being the best team in the regular season and kind of running out of gas in the postseason?
Well, it's different depending on the type of team you have. Like, this team is still trying to prove themselves. So you didn't know what you had. So you had to go and see what type of regular season we could have. How good can we be? How many games can they win? When you have a team that's a little more seasoned and you know what you have, you approach your season different. You approach your season with the mindset of, okay, we used to break our season down into 4 quarters, and we would see how we played, our first 20 some odd games, and we would kind of chart it like that, and we would see how we're peaking because we were preparing to make a run through in the playoffs. Although this team we were talking about making a run in the playoffs, because they've never done it, it's hard to gauge and see what actually has to be done. Like, when you got a team and you know that, hey, we're gonna be playing a long time. So there's certain things we're going to do. We're not this guy's not going to play a crazy amount of minutes all season. We're going to taper his minutes down a little bit during the end. I mean, there are a lot of different things that goes into a team that is a known commodity that knows, hey, we know we're going to be in the conference finals. For a while, the Pistons, we knew we were going to be in the conference finals every year. So we had a different approach. The regular season is important, but it was kind of a gauge for us to see what we need to work on, to see what things that we were not going to show you in the regular season. I can tell you right now, the Pistons had nothing new for the playoffs. They ran the exact same thing.
Right.
Teams that expect to go further do different things. I think next year they'll have a little different approach. They'll have it won't be a great big change, but it'll be a little different because, hey, we got to do some things different. We got to get ready for this. So it just depends on the team. It depends on the team, the construction of the team, and how seasoned they are.
Yeah, I think to go to answer the question as well. Who was it? Red Baron. What I talked about last night, I think kind of answers why Langdon or Trajan it seemed pretty snippy with that comment and snippy with that question. Again, I if you want the full thing, you have to. I'm not going to spend an hour here wasting all of our time. I'm sure Lindsey and Jake have heard me talk enough. What I'll say to that is that there were conflicting ideas coming into the year about, they wanted it to be a development year. That's more like they didn't want to lose. They wanted to win, but they were looking, okay, it's going to be more of a development. And then like Lindsey says, as you evaluate your season quarters, things start to change. I mean, after 20 games, all of a sudden you're first in the East. And now you've won, 13 straight games. So now it's like, if you're a head coach of a team and your team's first in the East, you've won 13 straight, you're in December now, you're still first in the East, and you're looking at your roster and you think, man, I got 12, 13 guys I trust in. I got 12, 13 guys here. I think we could win 60 games. I think we could win a playoff series if you just let me focus on winning. If you just let me focus on doing what I think is best for this team to win, we could win games. I mean, how do you not? How do you, what do you say to that? Like, how do you say no? Do you say no, we don't want to win? Like, do you say no, actually we keep focusing on this, and if we lose, like, how do you say that to a team, especially once you're already on a hot streak, once you're already winning? How do you tell a team or tell players, yeah, we're going to still prioritize development. You're first in the East, but we're still going to prioritize. How do you, you can't, things change, man. Like, once you got to that point, expectations changed, and some of the conflicting ideas started going at each other. And it's like, you can't, like, it's just, I just don't know what you could really say. If you wanted to still be development, you're first in the East, man. And you won how many games you're beating the Knicks. You're destroying the Knicks. You just beat the Knicks on their home floor by 30 or so. They couldn't even get the 90. Then you beat this team. It's like, how do you say, okay, our plan isn't to win then? Like, how do you not continue wanting to win? So I think that kind of shows why Trajan was kind of snippy and quick with that answer of like, I don't really want to talk about that, or like, don't really want to get into all that kind of thing.
Right.
100%. I think this is a good question for all of us from Troy Spencer because we haven't brought him up yet. He was on my list to get to. Thank you, Troy, for the question. What should be done with Tobias Harris? I'll be quick and just take this off the top that, man, you can't take anything away from what Tobias did in the early portion of the postseason and the career he's had and, some ups, some downs. It's been a long, long career. He deserves a lot of credit, but Father Time sometimes is undefeated, and towards the end, you started to see a little bit of that. And, I don't know if it's as simple as a veteran minimum and reworking it in that sense, but I think, unfortunately, just taking the sample size of the data out there in front of you, red left on the tires for old Tobias Harris. But that's not to take away anything he did this postseason.
Trajan did speak about bringing back Tobias. He said, Lindsey, I'll read this quote and let you go off of this. He said he played some of his best basketball this because he was asked about bringing Tobias back specifically. Right. He said he played some of his best basketball this postseason. His professionalism has been huge for us in establishing the environment. Says his leadership is impossible to describe, and that they hope to bring him back. But I do agree with Jake. I think it's going to come down to how much does he want to, how much is he expecting? I think they'd hope to bring him back as like a veteran piece off the bench still, be like a 6-man kind of thing. But there's already rumors about how much, how many suitors he's going to have, how much he's going to want. I think the team would like to have him back, but I think kind of when you hear how Trajan answered the question, I think you can kind of hear a level of, we don't know if he'll be back. We hope that he's back, but we don't know if he will.
Yeah. I mean, man, we praised Tobias several times on our show because he was amazing in the playoffs. I think he's a valuable vet that there's going to be a market for him.
Yeah,
it's going to be a market for him. So I don't know what the number will be for him, but he's a guy that a contending team would love to have coming off the bench, or a guy that could be a fourth option if need to score. If you don't have to score, just be a Swiss Army knife out there. So hopefully we could bring him back. I thought he was valuable for us. He did a lot. And if we could get better and not just have to depend on him and he could be just a plus for us, I think you do it, but you do it that if it makes sense for the Pistons, of course.
Yeah, I agree with what this comment said, Troy Spencer. I also want Tobias to retire here. Like if they could get a deal with him to where they get him back in a deal that they want, that that he's cool with. Tobias has been so good for this. Trajan talked about how good he's been in the community, how much he loves the city, but how great he's been for these players off the court, locker room. Like he's been. I don't know if you could have possibly asked for any better of a veteran. Like he was the best. He did everything you would have wanted a locker room presence, a veteran guy to do, both on the court and off the court. I would love if he could retire here. But again, like Lindsey said, he's going to have suitors, and he played well enough to where they might want he might get another pay, and this might be his last time to get paid. I mean, he's 33. Right. This might be his last contract he gets. So it's going to be interesting to see what his market looks like and if the Pistons are able to bring him back.
For sure. Let's a lot of good questions, and I hate to say, I hate to put this as good news because obviously we'd all want it to be differently, but we do have an entire off season ahead for a lot of these questions, to continue to discuss them and break them down. So like this one, for example, what do you think the plan is for Ron Holland? He's a non-shooter. Let's wrap up with this one. Do you think it's possible for him to be a starter? I've got my thoughts on this one, but I've been going first every time. So I'm passing the rock over to Lindsey Hunter.
Well, Ron has a lot of work to do, just like a sewer. Ron has a lot of work to do. I think, he has to get stronger, and he definitely has to get in the gym and work on his shot. It's this league today, man, watching the games that we watched San Antonio and OKC play, man, and it was shooting everywhere.
Lindsey, just real quick, what was your thoughts on that game? Like that game, that was one of the best games I've watched in like last 5.
Insane.
Dude,
that was incredible.
I was like, I first of all, watching, I was baffled at what they were doing trying to guard Wemby with guards. They had Lou Dort on them. They had, I'm like, dude. So then my mind started, as the coach in me, I'm like, oh, we're going 4 round 1. And he's going to go from block to block, and we just going to throw it over your head. And I'm waiting on them to do it. And finally, when the game got tough, they were like, block the block. And I'm like, you cannot guard him with a small guy. Like, dude.
Caruso looked like a gnat on him, like he was swatting flies. Like, no disrespect to him, but it's just like physics, you know?
Dude, he was so impressive, man. I think about this. He only took 2 threes.
Bro, and one of them was it literally was like the Steph Curry.
It was the exact same shot.
Bro, it was, I was literally screaming in here when he hit that. I could not, that was crazy.
Did you see that side-by-side video? I forget who put it out. Somebody put it, I was like, oh my God, it's scary. How
he was so far out. I forgot who was guarding him.
I forget who it was too. I forget who it was. It might have been J-Dub.
No, it wasn't J-Dub. It was the other guard. The guard that had 30. He came off the bench.
Oh, Caruso. Caruso
was guarding him. And Caruso, he was so far. Caruso was like, oh, he's not going to make that. Boom.
Yeah. He pulled it. Insane.
So I'm sorry for the chat for sidetrack.
That's okay. That's okay. But we were talking about Ron Holland. Ron Holland has to become one of those dudes. You got to become one of those dudes. OKC got a team full of them. San Antonio got a team full of them.
Yeah.
You got to be a dude that could defend, that could knock down shots, and make plays. Like, they're all over the place. That's why those two teams, like, unfortunately, we're looking at the preview of one of those guys are probably going to win the Larry O'Brien trophy.
Yep.
And if we're not careful, it's going to be San Antonio. And if that happens, nobody's going to see that trophy for the next 5 years.
Yes, right. Yes, I was just saying the same thing. If Wemby wins a championship, his first playoff run at 22, dog, I don't know what, they need to just make a second place trophy a championship, because that's just I don't know what you do. But just
De'Aaron Fox didn't even play.
Yeah, he didn't even play.
Yeah.
They're insane. Trajan did speak about Ron, and then I get sorry, Jake, to keep it. I know we went too long. Trajan said on Ron, I thought Ron took a step. You guys got to remember, he's just 20 years old. A lot of 20-year-olds don't even get thrown out there. He has a particular role that he was able to excel in on a 60-win team. I think it will put fire in him that he didn't play in the playoffs, end quote. So I think what ends up happening is it seems like that Trajan looks at Ron as more of a guy that can kind of develop behind the scenes. They don't need to rely on yet. Like, he's 20 years old. We'll keep developing him. And by the time he's 22, 23, he'll be exactly the guy we need, but it doesn't seem like they want to put I saw someone compare it to how the Raptors developed OG Anunoby. Like, I don't think OG was a part of the rotation really until he was 23. And while they were winning, he played sparingly he was a rotation guy in the regular season, but then in the playoffs, he just wouldn't play in the rotation. He was 19, 20, 21, 22. And then finally he popped after they, behind the scenes, they won a championship, and he was kind of behind the scene. He wasn't really a huge factor. So it sounds like that's what they have envisioned for Ron. I don't think he'd get traded this offseason. I think they are kind of slow. I think they're kind of developing him slowly and kind of will, I guess, for lack of a better word, debut his, he's a star now, when he's 22, 23. It seems like that's where they're, kind of looking at.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what just happened there. I lost audio for a second. I'm sure what you said was on point. It always is. And I don't know if you guys could hear me. I was like, hey, wait. So, but I look, seriously, I look forward to, breaking down the rest of the playoffs with you guys, albeit without the Pistons, but we can appreciate the highest level of basketball in the most important games. And then, of course, keep talking Pistons off season. So appreciate everybody in the chat as well. We'll be back on Thursday, our normal Tuesday and Thursday. And I appreciate you guys carrying the torch without me last Thursday. I meant to say that off the jump. Never a doubt you guys don't need me. I'll just press the buttons and go from there. But no, I appreciate you guys. And this has been a blast. And even though we're ending the playoff run sooner than we had hoped, we got plenty to talk about. We'll do that on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, for two-time champion Lindsey Hunter, host of Locked On Pistons, Khahil. My name's Jake Riepma. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.